love reading so much!
Pretty! Doing pretty! What?
You guys gotta shut up.
You gotta do the parent thing where you do this.
Yeah, in the bag now, come on.
Nice.
Ryan, you are outside and it looks like there's a mountain behind you.
Oh, yes. Hey, guess what time it is, everyone?
T-shirt time. Nice.
Yeah, cheers.
I got iced tea.
There you go. I'm not actually going to drink it.
Amy, we were a little bit concerned you weren't going to be showing to this because you know, this is your book. And so, you know, a no show.
You have 100% responsibility on what everybody feels.
That's too much pressure. That's not true. I simply recommended something.
Uh-oh.
Your audio sounds like a computer from the early 80s.
Yeah. Or that maybe it's underwater.
She's faking it. She's doing that thing like she's going through a tunnel so she can leave.
Right.
Justin, are you driving?
Right now I'm not driving. We finished baseball practice and they did good, so we're getting them treats. And I haven't read this book, but I knew there would be people that I missed dearly on this call. Right. Mainly just Amy and Ryan. Amy.
I didn't really read it either.
No way.
Truth?
I skipped around a bit. It was a little dry and I liked what I read, but I had trouble, or maybe just this month I didn't feel like reading, but I didn't read a lot of it.
I'm not going to lie. I'm with you. I did the audio and I did like the first half. And then I was like, oh, I'll finish it on the plane because we went to Disney. And then I realized I had like 8 hours left and I was like, not going to happen. So I did like the internet Cliff Notes research on the rest of the book. So I know what's happening. I just can't say that I read the book.
Fair.
Right.
Well, I read the whole book. It was over like the whole month though. So I sort of forgot, you know, because it was a month ago that I read like the first chapter. But it was slow. It was kind of like homework. It felt like, you know, I had to force myself a few times. But I will tell you, it was really good. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of takeaways for me anyway. And it's one of those that probably need to read again. Ryan probably has read it 10 times already, as my guess.
No, I'm going to be honest. I'm 57 minutes left. So I read 9/10 of it.
Ryan read it today while running.
No.
On his 8 hours.
No, I don't read while I run. But it was good. It was, I found it to be like a good, and I found a couple like, I sometimes in Audible I'll take like put bookmarks in there like oh, go back to this section. And if it's really good, like we'll just read the whole book again. But I found that this was probably like a good summation of a lot of other books I've read, like, you know, whether it's on, you know, servant leadership or, you know, integrity, you know, he had like 15 or so like things like checklists and they were all really good principles. I think good reinforcement.
Yeah. No, that's kind of how I felt too, is I just went through it. And like I said, if I was listening to the guy in the audiobook, it was kind of like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But then when I like did the research online and like went through the whole thing, I was like, this makes way more sense. Like just like bullet points of like this dude's points made a lot more sense.
Well, the book starts out, part of it anyway. I don't know how it tells the story of how he was almost acquired or whatever. But one of the earlier parts that I really liked was the practicing gratitude part. Because I think that I already do that a lot. And it's probably because I'm kind of old. And so I know that, you know, time is pretty precious. And also I get so wrapped up in that place. I've spent so much time at Shirkong that, and I've realized that I was a little out of whack. My you know, work-life balance wasn't balanced. And so even when I'm there at work, I really do take time out. I make a point of it actually in like our production meetings in the morning, because everybody's still kind of, waking up, and they are sometimes not in the greatest, moods, let's just say. And so we're kind of going through the lineup, and there's some jobs there that you're like, oh gosh, maybe we've got to print this, and you don't want to, or there's something negative about it. I always try to spin it positive, and so and kind of to be grateful for just even to have something to print. And so, but more than that, just grateful that, like, I'll say, Chad will tell you, I'll be like, you know what? It's sunny outside. It's a beautiful day, or whatever, I'll just try and comment on some things around the shop that just to get some positivity, just to get those kind of vibes going. So
you tell them about how beautiful it is outside and that they have to stay inside and work for you.
We have windows at our shop, and also how many doors?
Yeah. The whole back wall is just loading doors. So they've been open all week.
Must be nice.
It's been nice.
Mm-hmm.
Those insured windows must let in a lot of light.
Right.
Yeah, the insurance is pretty bad.
Only the good light, though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot.
I like that part too. I send out a newsletter just to my staff every payday. And it's usually it's light stuff, it's like fun things on the internet, or like somebody had a birthday or this happened or whatever. But I share a bookkeeper with one of our customers, a customer who's a brewery here in town. And so my bookkeeper is on the newsletter too. And so she was like, oh, I really like how you do that. It's really fun. And she's like, yeah, they do that over at the brewery too. And the owner just sends one out and is just gratitude. He's constantly thanking people all the time. That's what the whole thing is. And I was inspired by that to do more of that, like to make sure to set aside time to show gratitude and be thankful and appreciate people for the work they're doing.
Yeah. 5 to 1. 5 gratitudes for every one negative thought.
The compliment sandwich. Give a compliment, and then you give the criticism, and then another compliment.
So we all know when you're just trying to do a compliment sandwich on us.
Yeah, everyone knows that trick.
I thought I kind of like grabbed a bunch of the quotes from the thing, and there was some stuff that was kind of like really fitting. It was like, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You should say, like, how can I learn from this? And I feel like I do that all the time. Like, I make a lot of mistakes. I do a lot of stupid stuff, but then we learn from it and we figure out how to be better. It's the same thing with like the community and this stuff and the podcast. It's kind of like we talk about stuff that we do, and then whoever we have on is like, oh, well, I do it this way. And then we're like, oh shit. And it's usually Scott who calls us out and is like, oh, that's dumb. Do it this way. And he's back.
I'm trying to figure out one of these things will work. Too much.
It's much better now.
Yep, that works.
I'm just on my phone now.
Hi, Gavin.
Hello. What's up?
What's up?
How are you? What's going on, Amy? What's up, guys?
Representing
Kevin.
Canada, Mexico,
Florida.
Who's in Florida?
I'm actually not in Florida right now. I'm actually in Mexico. So, yeah.
I was going to say, I was in Florida last week and it was too hot for me.
It's actually hotter where I'm at right now.
It was like 95 and sunny, and I was just boiling.
Yeah. So let me just get ahead. I saw this email popped up. I was like, oh, the book club. I didn't know what book you guys was reading. I'm an avid book listener. So I'm just going to be in the back end just taking it in.
Yeah.
Next, I'll catch up on the future books.
We're happy to have you in.
Awesome, man.
Most people didn't read it, so you're in good company.
Yeah, we're all good here. We're all learning from each other on how we didn't read it.
This is the Faking It book club.
I have a question from the book. That was it's a personal struggle for me. So they talked about the need to be right and like getting over the need to always be right. So who struggles with that?
peeve for sure. That's a big one for me.
Yeah, I think as a leader, I think it's a big one, especially since you're running used to running the show. That's a hard one for me. And he had a lot of good strategies on how to get through that. Mostly like just pausing and taking deep breaths and like just letting it sit for a while. I find that's helpful. Like that email that you like hot finger back and then just like chill out, not respond. The next day you're like, I don't even give two shits anymore. But immediately you're like, I'm fire. So that one's I continue to struggle with. I thought it was good. He gave good advice.
Ryan, was that the part about, how he's a vegan, and then people protested him at Stanford and were like animal rights activists are like, oh, you don't do enough at Whole Foods. And he was saying, like you as a person have your values, but a company is different, or is that a different part? I only read it. That was a good part. I think it was a different part. He might've tied some of that into it, but that was a good part because I've gone through that quite a bit over the last having three different companies, being involved in three different companies, each having slightly different values. Gone through that quite a bit over the past year. So that was a good part as well to listen to get some retrospective from.
Now, how do you deal with that? Like going from three different companies with three different values, do you just kind of like shift gears, or how do you deal with that, I guess?
Letting them kind of go their own way, even though sometimes you don't agree with that. Like a good example is with Blackout Day last May, like Instagram Blackout Day. Like it was a completely different answer from every single team, and so supporting everyone's beliefs and everyone's reasons through that, even though my personal answer might have aligned with one more there was, it was a good experience to go through. That was kind of the first time it like really came to a head, but there's been many times since then. And they just not needing to be right. I guess it comes back to that. So maybe it was part of that chapter, just letting the team kind of, and the company, it's bigger than yourself. And as the leader, bigger than yourself. You have customers to worry about. You have a lot of team members and their beliefs and culture to worry about. And you don't want to ruin that with your own.
Yeah. He said in there, he told that story and then he finished it with like, we're a company, not activists. Like, you can hold beliefs, but at the end of the day, it's a corporation. People are employed. Like you have to play to the market. You're trying to make money. You're a company. Yeah.
And it talks about too, in another part about, like 5 different like ways to run your company. And one was like by toxic fear, blame, shift, and guilt, motivation by money, for the corner office or other perks, intrinsic motivation, learning, fulfilling purpose and autonomy, and then playful creativity and expressing our genius in the world or whatever. So, I feel like everybody who's in this, who's talks is kind of more towards the motivation, learning, fulfilling kind of thing. But I just feel like I've worked for places who have the fear and the money motivation. So it kind of made me feel good that I feel like I'm in more of that like play creative space.
I guess I could comment on that. I used to, it's sort of like, what's your motivation or what's the primary reason why you have a business or you go to work, and why when I show up, a lot of people think, and it might be that I used to think that slightly, is that, like you're motivated to make money. Way more so when I was younger, because when I had people there and they're on the clock and how expensive that is, and every little detail bothered me, like why are they texting or whatever, but I guess like as I matured, maybe that's the right word, and realized what I got from running a business, it was way more than like profits. That wasn't my driving reason why I wanted to have that business. I've learned so much from having Shirkong And I get so much satisfaction seeing kind of like what he said. He talked about how he loved seeing people start there that were young, and he hired them, and then they moved up. And pretty soon they were managers. Pretty soon they had, they got married, and then they had a mortgage, and they had kids. And isn't like that the coolest thing in the world to watch? I've experienced that. And I love when I look out to the parking lot and I see somebody pull up in a new car, and they have like in transits on their like plates. I'm like, that's so cool that they work here. And I don't know, that's really rewarding for me. And
right,
it kind of plays in.
You gave them that opportunity to do that.
I mean, true, but I mean, it's them, it's all them it's really, it's their.
No, I know, but I'm saying Shirt Kong as a whole, like your company, like gave them that.
And I think that's almost what he meant by the win-win-win, or partially anyway, because, we're winning as a company. There's a win transaction because you're providing the service for this customer. And so the customer is winning too. And the community is winning also. And I mean, our team is winning. And so there's 4 wins. But, it's like, it doesn't have to be that there's this, business, sort of like what he said. Some people's idea of a business that's really just out to win, and then it's not, and it doesn't matter if somebody else loses. It's not like a win-lose thing. It's a win-win-win, So maybe that's, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I want to go back to what you were saying, because it's funny. We talked about this a little while ago on the show, but like giving people time in the day to be creative, that's like not related to their normal work. I know a lot of big companies do that, like Google or whatever, where they'll just be like, oh, you have an hour to like play ping pong or whatever. Does anybody here do that, where they like give them a certain amount of time to just like be creative and do anything other than print related?
I have 20% time here. We do 20% every day, or I guess half an hour, 40 minutes a day, which is like 20% of the week. So yeah, I do it. 3 employees here, and we do, it adds up to like pretty much a full day every week.
What kind of stuff do you do? You're, like around the shop, or do you go outside the shop and do stuff?
No, it's just straight improvements in the shop. Like if you had a struggle from yesterday, you have 30 minutes in the morning before our morning meeting to work on whatever you want that improves whatever struggle you had in your job. And you present it at the meeting to everybody so that we all know what you just changed.
Do you feel awesome. Do you feel like it's working? Like it's definitely growing things.
That's like, that's the 2-second lean. That's what they say is the big thing, is the daily meetings, talking about it every day. We've been doing it for 3 years, like since moving in here, like the 30 minutes of time. And then about a 40-minute meeting after, just talking about waste and learning about these principles so we can see them better in the shop and not ignore them when we see them.
For the longest time, it's Justin, sorry. I had a conversation with Ryan like 2 years ago, maybe it was a year and a half ago, but for the longest time, I felt like my business has been a piece of dynamite that is lit. And I have that fuse, that length of the fuse is how much cash I have in the bank. And I would get really upset about cash flow issues, and it would trigger anxiety, and I would turn into the worst version of myself. And Ryan and I found ourselves in a conversation talking about cash. And he pointed me he's like, dude, I just stopped worrying about cash flow issues. Listen, that doesn't mean you can't stop worrying about cash flow issues, but like, I can't, so much of this is out of my control. Then I'm just going to view cash as a resource, just like I do people, just like I do blanks or whatever it is that you're selling. And so the longer I do this, and like you, Andy, like I'm finding myself reflecting more. I'm always going to want to print more. We're always going to have too many expenses, and I think that viewing people and viewing your job as giving it space, that like, it's not all about making money. Sustainability is not about keeping the environment clean. It's also about like the people that you're taking care of, making sure they don't burn out, so saving time. I love that. I love that idea of saving 30 minutes. We started playing disc golf, and I spent $600 on disc golf baskets and just like installed them around the campus, because turns out there's like 8 production people that like to play disc golf. And so now in their breaks, they just go outside and play disc golf for 15 minutes. And that only became of just having a pulse on the needs of the business. So I love so much of this, of yes, it's about money. And yes, that's the end goal. And that is our, like, without money, we can't do anything, but there's so much more value to what it is that we're doing and the people that we're doing it with than just making another buck.
Right. And they probably talk about stuff that they're struggling with at work, not necessarily a bad struggle, but something that they want to figure out and do, and they can brainstorm while they're doing that. So I feel like that's the idea.
And they step away for a minute. You know, if you're playing disc golf or whatever, you step away and you recharge, and then, you know, you come back stronger. Yeah, for sure. Right. I tried. So on that morning, we have a production meeting every morning, and ours is only 10 minutes. Sometimes it runs to 15. But I tried. I tried the thing he talked about, where you give an opportunity, or you take a moment for somebody to give somebody, like, acknowledge somebody and say, you know, so-and-so is doing a great job. And so I just opened it up. Like, you know, you don't call on anybody or call anybody out. You just said, hey, so let's kick this off with, you know, does anybody have anything, you know, nice to say about one another or whatever? And so basically, and it's kind of the awkward silence for maybe 10 seconds or so. And then every time somebody has something to say, you know, and then it becomes kind of funny, because it's usually I thought anyway, it would start like, oh, we say something about this, maybe Steve, and then somebody says something about somebody different. But then what it turned out to be, this one time, is it's just like everybody just said something nice about Steve, like just went around the room and just, it was hilarious, you know? And so I don't know. It makes
that would be a better
really good,
way,
you know?
Maybe that would be a better way to structure that meeting, is make every day, like, put somebody on the pedestal and say, all right, we're all going to say something nice about this one person. So everybody gets that one meeting where they have to sit there awkwardly while everyone talks about them.
So it's like the opposite of Festivus, where you air your grievances. You say something really nice about them. But I don't know. I haven't been doing it every single day because it takes a minute, you know? And so it's sort of like, I think maybe the time to do it, it's either on maybe Monday or a Friday or something like that. So I don't know, maybe once a week is better. It's tough to do. Corey, you probably have enough time. If you're taking 20 to 40 minutes or something like that, you could kick off the meeting. I don't know if you tried something like that.
Yeah. So I was going to say, like, it's not like it is a production meeting, but like we probably have the same amount of production meeting that you do. Like 10 or 15 minutes of it is about the board and what's next, like what's really next, except for the next like 3 jobs. You know, there's not really that much to talk about, just the next jobs, and that's it. But the first thing we do is a gratitude check. We just have a sheet, like these little clipboards, and just take a second all together in silence, basically, to write down 3 things that we're grateful for from the morning. And it's like a lot of the same stuff. Sometimes it's like coffee, good weather, like whatever they did last night, but we always pick someone to read them out loud. And what I was going to say, like I was hoping someone would I would be able to chime in, because I was thinking tomorrow I'm going to change it. I'm going to say something that we're grateful for about someone here in this circle. Cause I think that's really cool. Like just, it's like more of a team building thing and less of like a getting to know this person thing. Cause they'll say, oh, I'm grateful for like having time to play disc golf yesterday. Grateful for disc golf. It's a good opportunity to get to know them, but I love that team thing, like talking about somebody else. Think about your team and what you're grateful for about them. I think that's really good.
Well, that connects to the book as well, because you're talking about 2 things combined. Well, really 3, because it does connect to the win-win-win, but also with taking that extra time out to have some sort of recreation that's revitalizing your team. And then also the phrase is you're cultivating that company culture, and you're making everybody feel like they're human beings and they're not just like t-shirt printing robots that are required to print a certain amount of shirts every day, or you're going to be grumpy, or like what Andy said. I mean, I've been super guilty of the same thing, where you're getting, you look across a production floor and you've got one or multiple people that are texting or they're doing something on their phone, and your first thought is just to focus on like, well, this is costing me X. And so making sure that you're always recognizing your staff as human beings, and that goes such a long way.
Something I want to touch on the phone thing is I say all the time to people, like when we talk about improvements that are inherently like they just improve something, it just saves a little time in your day. It doesn't like improve the quality. It's maybe just a time thing. I talk about like saving this time is worth it. Like, yeah, you could just like you could let it fill the old amount of time it used to take, but I'd literally rather you look at your phone for 10 seconds. If you like, there's times where it's ideal to or appropriate to look at your phone, right? Like you hit an approval, you're waiting for that shirt to come out of the oven. Like I've heard the phrase, if you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean or whatever. But like for me, it's like take that time to do it, because you have time where you need to think about improving stuff. It's like, I'd literally rather you stare at the wall than to do something that we've determined is wasteful. I'd rather you not do it and then stare at the wall than to do it if those two things take the same time. Because at least you're like taking a breath. I'd rather you stare at your phone, to use the example, right? Literally, I'd rather you stare at your phone than do something a slow way just to look busy. If you're not busy, I'll fill that time, right? We can fill it.
And that's what he was saying in the book when he was talking about the champion tennis players when they analyzed the champion tennis players, how he realized how many of them would take even just like 10 or 15, 20 seconds to just rest and not stand there and bounce the ball or fiddle around with something, because that small amount of revitalization had a much greater impact. And sometimes, especially people on production floor, for them to look at their phone for 10 or 15 seconds or to shoot a text to their spouse or whatever, that's the revitalization that they might need that day
for real
to get through whatever's happening. And there might be stuff happening outside that in their personal life that you're completely unaware of. And they just really need something to, maybe even the reverse. They need to read a text from their spouse that's just like, hope you're having a good day, and how the impact that might have on them that you're just completely unaware of.
It's like quality for the customer, right? Like there's certain times where you checking your phone does not affect quality of the customer. If anything, like to Scott's point, it might be improving quality of the customer by letting you get back into the zone. So it's like, why are you doing that? Is it because you're bored? Like waiting time is a huge waste. If you have enough waiting time in this process to like routinely be on your phone, then maybe I'd approach it from that angle, really, right? Hey, like I'm noticing this is like a consistently convenient time to be on the phone. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe there's something we could put in this process instead of the waiting time. Like if I'm waiting for a shirt at the end of the dryer, I try and say like, it's worth getting the infrared gun in there so that you're not just like staring at the back of the dryer. Like there's some stuff to do, right? Sure. But I'm not trying to like micromanage exactly what it is. It's like you need to see when you're adding value, and I trust my people to determine that, right?
Well, there was a stat in there that said NASA found that organizations whose employees took a nap for at least 35 minutes a day were 35% more productive. So I feel like we should just get those like blue mats from like kindergarten.
First thing I thought of
roll them out and take a nap.
First thing I thought of is, can we just take a poll maybe, or just think about this? How many of your employees are salaried versus like hourly? Because at NASA, I would guess, my guess would be that they're all on salary, that engineers are all on big salaries, big corporate salaries or whatever, not large corporate salaries, but a salary that is based on your work output. If you need to take a nap in the middle of the day, then, right. It's kind of incomplete stat, but I see, right.
At one point we tried to hang a hammock in our screen room because we had an employee who just was burning out every day at 2, and structurally it didn't work, but the idea was there. And I appreciate hearing you guys say that about the phones, because there was also a time over a year ago where we just tried to crack down on phone use, because it's like people were DJing the music, like picking every single song instead of making a playlist and just letting it play. And like, so I think there's a balance there, but it's also true. Like I'm on my phone all day, and if somebody's got something going on and they want to check in with their people, and then that puts their mind at ease so they can focus on work, like it's kind of a relief to know that it is okay to say that to our employees, which is why I think this book a little bit, at least for this crowd, is preaching to the choir, because all of us are probably pretty conscious leaders and like take care of our people pretty well.
Yeah, I think that phone comment was sort of from my earlier days. I think that I think it's healthy. I think Corey's right that there's a healthy amount of phone use. Of course, it can cross the line and be excessive, but I haven't had any to give even a verbal warning for phone use in over 5 years, probably, or maybe longer, because it's what I've found anyway. And with not just phone use, but if somebody's slacking in any way, if it's a 1 day, it's not a big deal. If it's 2 days, usually their coworkers or the team is like, I got you. I get it. You're having a bad couple days. But by the third or fourth day, it's like, hey man, what's going on? Because their work starts affecting somebody else's work. And their quality, or maybe not just the quality, but also like how much they have to work too. And so eventually they probably say something to them. And if not, then it ends up in my office and they come in and say, I don't know, but what's going on? But they're not staying off their phone. And you got to do something about it, And so that has happened, it just doesn't happen really ever, because it doesn't really escalate to that. I think that everyone pretty much checks one another, when you're working in teams anyway, and when you're working in print teams, they kind of check one another. And not just with phone use, but with anything. If you're slacking and you're not, kind of like Corey said, if you're just standing around, then you can do that sometimes if you're having a bad day. But by the end of the week, usually somebody's checking in and saying, hey, is everything all right? Because it looks like you're having a terrible week.
I feel like it's just one of those things with like today's society, though, is like everything for that person's life is on their phone. Like you can order groceries from your phone now. Like, them looking at their phone while they're doing work, or they're walking from like the press to the cart, or they're folding at the end of the dryer between jobs, coming off the dryer, they're checking their phone, or just walking in for approval, checking their phone. Like that to me is their like adding up at the end of the day to their like 30-minute like rest time, is them just checking in on their personal lives when they can, but in between doing those processes. But like I had a guy that doesn't work here anymore that would literally stop the press, like stop the auto to like text his girlfriend for like 5 minutes and then go back to printing again. It's like, dude, not only technically wise, like you cooled all the pallets down, but like, why are you stopping the press to text? Like, just wait till the job's over. And I had to have a talk with him a couple times about that. And it was just like, you're not on your phone for a second to check something. You're literally taking 10 minutes at a time on your phone and then going back to doing something. I don't have anybody who does that. It's always just that like real quick, like while you're walking or doing something, you like check your phone and then put it back in your pocket. So I don't really have.
So to both of your points, it made me think like the hypothesis here, like I said, to both your points is like, is the measure of their success at Floodway and your company, is the measure of success at the company related to how much time they're not on their phone? Like when Andy pointed it out, like, yeah, they're on their phone, but it gets to a certain point, and that point is not a certain amount of time on the phone. It's like when the quality for the customer starts being affected, or when the rest of which is related to the team working together, when it affects the team and stuff like that. So it's a modern world, right? I'm 31, which is maybe on the younger side, but it's like, I grew up before phones and after, and I remember working before having a cell phone. And I remember working like when you just get one and it was very strict and like no cameras and stuff, but how can you enforce it nowadays? Like Dylan said, right? Everybody has it. I have it. We all use it. Like I call them when I'm out of the shop, like on their personal phone sometime. Like, I don't know. It's fine. Like I said, the measure is not really the time on phone. It's like your performance in the company, which we all measure different ways, right? But none of us measure that.
And you multitask.
Well, yeah. And it's like, no, because now you're doing 2 tasks. So your inventory of tasks is higher and you don't need to multitask really. It's like, can you pick those times and not let it affect the process? Because that's what we're working on here all the time, is being better. It's not about like printing shirts. It's about getting better at printing shirts. And like, where does your phone play into that? If you need to Google something, I would not want to walk up to some guy and be like, hey, what are you doing on your phone? And then they're like, oh, I'm just Googling the cure temperature for this ink. I'd be like, never mind me, right? Like, do your thing.
Yeah, but the thing is he just has that on an extra window on his phone so that when you come up and bug him, he can pull it up real quick. There's no way he's looking that shit up.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, is the press stop for that long? It's like different. Yeah, it's like different problem, right? So I let them manage it themselves. If that was the case, it would show somewhere else, not in like the time on phone. It would show somewhere else, right?
Andy, I saw something in this book that I felt personally attacked, and I felt like you put it in there somehow in my copy. But it was, I commit to maximizing my energy by honoring rest, renewal, and rhythm. And I was like, that's 100% Andy spearing me. So,
well, Dylan, I know that you.
Well, I wanted to say, you know how I could have talked about this on the podcast, but I'll talk about it now. You know how you've been trying to make me better. We made it to where I go to sleep earlier at night, and we're working on things personally. I literally made a doctor's appointment today to go get a sleep test.
Really?
A sleep study. Yeah. So I go tomorrow at 10. So awesome, it's because of you, man.
Proud of you.
How's your nasal passage? Can you give us a big hard sniff in?
No.
You think you got a breathing problem?
I do. That's what, anytime we go with the guys here at work to any like trade show, I literally have to get my own room because it sounds like, right? When I snore, it sounds like you're dragging something across concrete. Like I'm dying all night in my sleep.
Well, human beings are unique. Human beings, we can store fat, and so we can access energy at a later date. Human beings,
I have a lot of energy.
Human beings, we cannot store sleep. I mean, and so you have your sleep and you have your opportunity to sleep. And if you miss out on it, well, then you miss out on it. And we're the only animal that will deliberately miss out on it. We set a sorry if there's any kids. We set an alarm and we wake ourselves up. I mean, what other animal does that? They just sleep when they're tired. We don't sleep when we're tired. When we're tired, we sometimes push ourselves and work harder. And so if you neglect that and you get out of your rhythm, which I find rhythm is really important, going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time or thereabouts is really, really important. Well, it's huge. And that's part of like his in the later chapters is what he's talking about as a conscious leader, is to also take care of yourself and recharge, whether it's in nature or things like that. And so, I mean, sleep kind of starts there. I mean, sleep is super important. I'm sure Ryan would have something to say.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, I've gone through business to this far, and I was always constantly like, I'm staying up late at night and I'm thinking about things to make things grow or do this. And I can't sleep because my mind's racing all the time. But I feel like I'm getting finally to the point where I've delegated things and I've done things as best of my ability in the company where I can relax a little bit. And now I'm like, I should, no joke, like think about myself a little bit and like get healthier and start thinking about bettering myself. Then I see people like Ryan running like 90 miles a day and like taking ice baths. And I'm like, I am not there yet.
Maybe ice baths do help with sleep for sure. But no, that was a great section on it. And I'm going to send you, Dylan, this thing that Jared from Rockford Art Deli and I have been doing. It's called a BioStrap, and it measures your sleep and your sleep effectiveness. And it's really spot on. It's pretty cool stuff, like your recovery, your heart rate during your sleep. But you can definitely tell like when you're ready to go and when you're not ready to go. And it's just as much mental, like in your day, as it is like if you're going to go run a race. So it's even actually more important. So I listened to a speaker once that said, if you're getting under 7 hours of sleep, every hour that you average under that is like 5 years off your life. So if you're averaging 4 hours of sleep, that's like
so I'm gonna die.
Off your life.
I'm gonna die in like what 30 minutes.
Yeah, Ryan, can you drop that in the chat, like that link, that thing you're talking about?
Yeah.
I have to say that during COVID, I actually started sleeping a lot better after like the initial March crazy town, but like things were slower and the PPP money came in and like I just had less to do and started sleeping a lot better and having more time to exercise too. And it felt so great. And then now this past week, things have started picking up again. And we had a few people out sick. And then on your guys' podcast, you were talking about nightmares about work. And I've had, like the last 3 nights, I've had like stress nightmares related to work every single night and woken up every morning being like, fuck, this is what I'm getting back to it. Like I have to get back to being a more chill boss.
Yeah. No, it's great when you can work all your sleep too. we were making all those masks. I was having lots of dreams about Dub Charney and it was scary.
Well, the best sleep is when you're really tired and you go to bed and it feels like you literally just like blinked and then you wake up in the morning, but it feels like nothing changed. Like you're still tired, everything. And it's just like, why?
Andy, I do think that you can store sleep though. I actually asked that speaker about that, and he said that he thinks you can catch up on weekends a little bit. It's not quite like storing, but I think that you can store up. So like I'll average five a night, but on the weekends I'll sleep nine hours, and I feel still pretty good. And drinking also like 2 beers is like less an hour of sleep. So if you're not, I try not to drink during the week because it just, I find that I need more sleep.
Now, are you guys like you go to bed late and wake up early, or do you go to bed early and you get up? Like Andy always gives me shit because I don't start work till 9 and he's there at like 5:30.
Well, how old are you?
33.
Our clocks change when we're like late 30s. And so I couldn't wake up to save my life in my like 20s and early 30s. But like now I can wake up a lot earlier.
I'm the same way right now. I'm 42 and I get up about 6:30 every morning, partly because of my 3-year-old, but
yeah, same.
I'm the same way. I'm like on the fast track to like dad schedule where my wife is like, it's all right. It's 8:30. We're gonna watch a movie. News fest. But
you guys know.
But just like Dylan, my morning schedule is, even though I get up at 6:30, I'm with my boys and my wife, and we do our morning thing. But the shop doesn't open till 9. And
ours is 9.
We'll get there until 9:30. So, I find that routine has helped me kind of focus better on, when I actually get to the shop, it helps me to be already transitioned from home life to work life better.
Well, that's the other part of it too, though, is like I get here at like 8:30 and the staff doesn't get here till 9. So that like half hour, 45 minutes gives me like me time, like there's no kids, there's no wife, there's no employees bugging me about anything. I just sit here and just like chill, eat my breakfast, and like
that's my favorite time in the shop is like 30 minutes early. Like that's it.
And then somebody gets here early and then ruins it for me.
If I miss the morning routine and like sleep in, it's definitely not. I feel like I'm running behind all day long. And so I think getting up early and having that time to slide into the day is super important.
Ryan, do you have any like of your workout or like William Hoff stuff? Is that part of your morning routine or like throughout the rest of the day?
Yeah, I run and then ice bath typically before coffee. Run, ice bath, prayer, meditation before coffee. Sometimes I do it after coffee, but it's really hard to meditate when your it's crazy once you get in the ice. It's so different. Like even that little bit of caffeine can really change things.
You do that every morning?
Yeah.
Wow. Has anybody ever tried the shower, or ever been to a Nordic spa that a cold shower? Doubt it, Dylan. But a cold shower that, I've been to Nordic spas that have the freezing cold pools and stuff like that. Has anybody ever done the cycle that Ryan's kind of talking about?
Mm-hmm. I took a cold shower for 2 seconds once, and I'll never do it again.
Buddy, if you get past
cold showers,
I'll let Ryan say it. But from what I understand, you get past that sucking part, you take some deep breaths, and it's like. So what got me into it is someone said it's literally like drugs, and I was like, "Oh yeah, drugs! Like I like drugs. I'll try this out." And it was like, wow, I feel high on water, literally. That's how I describe it. Would you agree? Is that? I'm high.
No, yeah, the breathing. If you Google Wim Hof breathing, I've literally gotten high off this breathing. It you go into this
crazy.
You go into a different state. It's a pretty cool state because you have to separate your mind and your body. And so he talks about meditation in that book as well. And I think it's super important. It's the only place I've ever been able to meditate is in the ice bath. And it's trained me to meditate in other areas like endurance runs, long runs. I'm able to just, it kind of sucks in a way because running used to be a creative spot for me. And now it's more of I kind of go to a different place and I can't think as much, but yeah, I think it's the ice bath allows me to separate my brain and stop thinking, be able to just. So if you want to see a really funny video about ice baths, you should watch Justin take one. It was pretty hilarious.
That was at a convention center, wasn't it?
Prince Chavo, yeah.
How did that happen? Were you just like, hey, can I bring this giant container of ice in here?
Yeah.
Yeah. He took it with him camping.
Yeah.
Didn't you take your whole thing with you camping and your camping neighbors thought you were crazy?
I also tried, I had it at Printed Threads once and I left it filled with water in the back of the pickup truck. And then I tried to drive it to Brett's house. And then the first stoplight I stopped at, the whole ice bath slid into the pickup truck, busted out the entire back window and flooded the truck.
Turtle.
And the insurance company's like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know.
So, does William Hoff ever touch on the cold, your reaction to cold being mostly an emotional reaction, not a physical reaction? Does it come into that cold is a feeling, an emotional reaction, not a physical thing?
Yeah, I think cold's a weird thing. It's a thing that our bodies actually need. They need colds and hots. We're healthier that way. We're to this point, we're the only animal that regulates our temperature. Every other animal can go cold or hot, and so it's but to his point, there's every morning getting into the ice bath is I don't know, want to do that, but you have to get over that trigger. And then once you're over that trigger, I've never regretted it once. It's never been shoot, I shouldn't have done that. So it's definitely more of a mental thing for sure. But I've been doing it for 2.5 years. I haven't gotten sick once.
It's amazing.
Since
it's the same. So. It's sort of the same as when I go to train, we go 3 times a week for an hour. And it used to be when I showed up, I was dreading it because I know it's going to, it's a bitch. But when I leave, when I'm walking out, it's such a dopamine release and I feel so good. And I feel so good the rest of the day that, I miss it, because this Saturday it got called off and I was like, so what are we going to do? And so we went and there's this place called Queenie Park and we just walked all around the park for a couple hours instead. And it was great because it was beautiful out. But yeah, I think that, like you said, if you get yourself thinking I got to go work out, this sucks. Once you get past that and you realize that all the benefits from it, that it's sort of like anything, I guess, if you're trying to quit soda or whatever it is, those first, as you try and retrain your brain, I guess, that initial time sucks, but then it all of a sudden is way better.
Yeah. Tell me more about the trainers, guys.
So Ryan, what is what's the poor man's version of starting this? Because I've seen your setup, and I don't have a freezer to pull around. Do you start in a bath? Do you start with a cold shower? What do you do?
The tractor. Well, you start with cold showers. I did that, and it sucks. I would say cold showers suck, but
yeah.
You can go to get a horse trough. Like, just get a horse trough, like $50 to $100. You get it $50 used. Recommend not a metal one. Or in the morning, it's cold. Cold enough. Under 50 degrees really gets you into it before you get into like the 30 degree.
Yeah, dude, like room temperature water will rock your world if you're not ready for it. Even just like room temp, it's not comfortable to get into. So my only experience with it, besides the cold showers, is I'm in like a really cold climate, and I don't like underdress on purpose, but when I feel cold, I check self mentally like into this sort of thing where I just try and remember that I can take some deep breaths. I can breathe through this, and I can separate my body from my mind. It's not just your reaction to cold. It probably contributes to your reaction to stress, fatigue, like Ryan's talking about, endurance and stuff like that. So that was my whole thing, was proving to myself just like that cold. I would always say cold is it's just an emotion. My wife be like, I'm cold. It's cold. I'd be like, that's just a feeling, baby. Don't worry about it.
Don't like that.
And so it didn't work. It's not funny to say it to her. You're right. But she started saying it to me. If I would say like, oh, where are my gloves? She'd be like, I thought cold was just an emotion. I'd be like, you're right. I'm just going to take some deep breaths. And I'm just going to I felt like, Ryan, you might be able to relate. Like, I felt like I could heat my fucking hands from the inside by just like my hands aren't cold. They're not cold anymore. I'm scraping my car off in the winter. They're not cold. Like, you can get yourself into a state of calm about it.
Yeah, I was in a psychology class in college, and one day we did this experiment, and they passed out a thermometer, and we sort of meditated, and they talked about like, imagine yourself on a beach and stuff. And we all raised our body temperatures, just by thinking about it. So it's a real thing. But yeah, if you're, I was going to say, if you, the poor man's version is that you could probably just go, I don't know where you're located, but you could go to where Corey is in Canada and just go outside. Cause like he said, I mean, it's already cold, right? It's free.
Pretty cold.
Or Dylan.
I'm in Jersey. So it's cold now, but it's not cold in 2 months from now.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
I want to try this because this chapter, the revitalization chapter, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, just like all of you for the past, 3 years, I've had this business. I've been just head down, haven't looked up. And now it's like, I don't have any hobbies. I don't have any like escape from the business, any way to recharge and feel like on Monday morning, I am ready to go and want to get back to work. So, maybe it is an ice bath, or maybe it's just, finding those hobbies, whatever it is. So, that's why I'm curious, like what you guys do to recharge those batteries and keep yourself fresh. So yeah, I'll definitely check out the ice bath by the next book club and see what happens.
It took me 15 years to realize I should probably start doing something. So you're not alone. It definitely.
Well, now's the time though. I think, Dylan, like, we're similar ages. I think now, at least with my BMX friends and stuff, the last couple of years, I've kind of seen a trend. Like, now is when you decide. I feel like I'm deciding to either seize up and like keep going down this slightly downward path of health, or to like ramp it up. Because if you think about your age, like, how old do you think you would live? 80 years? Like, we're not even at halftime. If there was a football game, like, you're not even at halftime. So definitely lots of time for a comeback. I don't know. Look at Ryan. You ever watch like an old Ryanette video? Right? Guy's jacked.
I don't know how much further we need to go on the health thing, but I just, I looked at it to kind of finish that off. I just kind of looked at it as like I said, I'm in a good time where I can actually think about it or whatever. I'm not like diving deep and doing crazy ice baths and shit, but, I just might like drop soda and eat a sub once in a while instead of
2-second improvements, man.
Right.
It's like, that's really it. That's what leads to the ice bath looking less crazy.
Yeah. No, I feel like I realize how much work and time I've put into building this company or building this building and everything else I put into it. And then I'm like, well, you were saying like 80 years old, which is funny to me because like all the men in my family have died like early 60s, like all different kind of like health things. And like, I look at my dad too, like my dad's not 60 yet. And he like, he has like so many things, like both of his knees are replaced. Like he can't taste anything. He's having surgery on like his foot right now. And like, he's just deteriorating. And I'm just like, I'm getting these symptoms. Like I said, the sleep apnea thing, like he has that. And then like, I'm starting to have like shoulder issues and like, I have like back issues. And I'm like, I just need to do something now to where maybe I can break that trend and like try to get out of it, because I want to keep working in this industry and with this company and like I want to get it to the point where, you know, I can do this all the time and I can do the creative stuff, which is what I'm doing right now. And then eventually I can just be like, oh, I can go on a trip I can do the Andy Rudman and take a trip somewhere for like a month and not think about it.
I think that trip for a month, for example, and it was more mental too. And you don't have to take a trip for a month. I liked today. I was sort of a wild day mentally. And I stepped away from my desk about 3:00 and just said, you know, that's enough for a minute. And I went to our ink pit and I just started cleaning squeegees and flood bars. You know, I just stood there I was there for probably 45 minutes. And I was doing like this fantastic, like it's the best job I could do on each squeegee, like super clean, like, because I know that they were going to come by and check them out and say like, well, how's he doing? But so I made them, and actually they did. Like I remember there was a few remarks and they'd be like, hey, wow, appreciate you helping out. And wow, those squeegees are really clean. And I was like, yeah, I wanted you to be proud, you know? And so I'm not going to do it half-assed. And so, but I noticed like, as I was doing that, I wasn't thinking about, you know, that like I'm constantly bombarded, you know, like all of you know, you're just constantly bombarded, whether it's an email or a customer at the front or a phone call or this problem or that. And so to step away and they almost couldn't find me, you know, like I was over there washing squeegees and cleaning squeegees and there I was, and I got to kind of zone out for a minute and it felt really good. And that's, I think, really important, you know, during your day, because I noticed when I came back and to finish everything out that I was, I felt better. I was stronger. So,
speaking of the cleanliness, Deanna, I saw you posting all the stuff and the new shop layout. Everything looks super clean and pretty awesome.
Thanks. It's still a little bit of a work in progress, but I think I showed you the CTS is still in a crate. So, you know, we're just like picking away at it as quick as we can, because since COVID, you know, Josh is back on the screen printing press and I'm back in sales. And so it takes us a little bit longer to like get those things done that require your extra attention, like the plumbing and the electrical and all that. But yeah, the room is really awesome. We like to be in there now. It was pretty nasty before.
Yeah.
So it's good. We're happy with it.
Yeah, but at least if you're doing like little incremental improvements like every day, or you're not just like, I'll get to it next week, like, just do like little things. Like I've definitely felt like that's what's helped me with a lot of stuff, is just do like things little by little.
Like chip away. And
like right now, even with me, like I have like a website I'm trying to like revamp, and I keep like looking at it as like this daunting, like, oh, I know I have like 8 pages I want to redo. And it's like, I keep thinking about it. And the other day I was like, why don't I just do like 1 page a week?
Yeah.
Like just try to do this one project and then it'll actually happen. Because if I keep thinking of it as like 8 pages, I'm never going to get it done.
I definitely dealt with that the whole course of owning this business, of like nothing ever moves fast enough for me. And I get frustrated with that. And yeah, I mean, this year's definitely forced me to slow down a little bit. Even though I feel like I'm working a little bit more. But yeah, I definitely had to have that mindset of just chipping away at it and not like letting it overwhelm me. Just accept the fact that a little bit at a time is going to get us to where we need to be, and is what it is. So, but even though I'm working a little bit more and maybe can't get things done as fast, just kind of those changes that we've made in the shop and stuff they're definitely like, I feel like they've improved the morale and like just I guess just how we feel, the positivity about being there, and
right, like it makes you feel proud of your space.
Yeah, improvement's good.
Yeah.
New equipment does improve morale. I've noticed that too.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes a lot into what he was saying too about, hiring and retaining employees, and so if you have to have, or you want to show that you're leading by improving yourself as a leader, but also your equipment at your shop and also your space at your shop. I mean, we built out what I thought was a great break room one time. It didn't have a sink or anything like that, but we've gone from like mini fridge to college fridge to like reduce, I don't know, whatever kind of fridge to like
real people fridge that has water in it and stuff, and so I mean, we built, I knocked down what was like a pretty nice break room to build an even better break room. And I mean, you talked about naps. There's a couch in there that I got at IKEA that's super comfortable with blankets and everything. And people actually sleep on it. Like I'll walk by and somebody will be napping on it. So, well, it's like us too. Like we went from not having really a break room. We just had like an area in the corner of the office where we had like a, like you said, like a mini fridge and stuff. And now we have this big space and we have this big wraparound couch that used to be at my house. And I have like 2 TVs, 2 Xboxes, like full kitchen, everything. And it's funny, like Chris was telling me, and Chris has been with me since the beginning. Like he's not once in a while, he'll give me like a really great compliment of like, I'm proud of you or whatever. And like the other day he sent me an email. It was like on a weekend and he's like, hey, I noticed like, the morale super, like not super improved, but like went up when it was like, he walked by because he doesn't eat here. He like walks home and he noticed like everybody who else was here other than him, like was literally on the couch. And some people had like blankets on and we were all like sitting back eating lunch and we were like laughing and watching TV and watching videos and stuff. And it was just like, he's like, I look around at this place and see like how much it's grown and like what you're doing. And like, I'm proud of you. And I was like, hell yeah, that's awesome. But it was funny,
you too,
like
Dylan.
Hey, thanks, man. But it was funny. Me and Andy were talking about this, and we were kind of trading pictures a little bit. And he sent me a picture of like his like kid in his old shop or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
What? Not that. I won't go into too many pictures.
A looming punchline.
Yeah. But it was funny. Like now that we've done these improvements in the office and stuff, like the front hallway, I've always wanted to, and I've always saved photos of like us doing stuff together. That's not necessarily always work related, but there's a lot of funny stuff like at work. We've done stuff. I've saved photos and I kind of want to be that middle-aged mom that has like the photos on the wall and like, the collages of stuff. And I was looking,
that'd be cool.
I was looking through photos the other day and I like saved them in my desktop. And like, I kind of was going backwards in time from like the newest photos I put into like the oldest ones. And I got to some of the oldest ones and they were like the ones when we moved from the 2-car garage to this shop, and just like looking at the shop photos of like this big warehouse with like two manuals in the middle and like a tiny dryer in the middle. We had like a mini bike racetrack around in the shop, like through boxes and just stuff. And I was like, dude, I can't imagine like I know back then I wasn't thinking about it as much, but like how daunting it is to think about going from that to like what we have now in like those 10, 11 years or whatever. But it's just like, holy shit. Like I saw boxes on the shelves with these 2 manuals, like how much work we were doing. And I was like, I can't imagine going back to that right now and being like, how do we have to wait another like 8-10 years to get to where we are now. And like how crazy this building has changed and staff. And like you said, Andy, like people like now have wives and kids and cars and stuff. It's crazy to think like how much that stuff grew to like now. So
like it's a memoir almost.
Yeah, it was crazy.
When I started out, my dad built like made me a press out of like 2x4s and scrap wood, and the metal arms were like salvaged out of a filing cabinet, and the springs were like carburetor springs. And it's this like the platen is actually an old kitchen cabinet door from when my parents had their kitchen remodeled. And
then it turns into a transformer. It was like, but
I have that press. I kept it this whole time. I have that, and it sits in the corner of the shop right outside of the break room. So every day when I get to work, we have lockers in our break room. So every time I get to work, I come in the main door and I walk back to the break room to put my stuff into a locker. I walk past that pile of wood every day. And then I can walk into the shop, and it's almost subconscious, but it is that little bit of like, remember this, remember like being
reminds you where you came from. Yeah.
Well, it's funny too. Like I said, I have like 4 or 5 people that have been here the entire like 11, 12 years or whatever. So we always talk about it too. It's funny. Like we're here, 8 to 10 hours a day, every day of the week. And we have so many inside jokes or just like sayings that we say that we like made up with each other, that like we sometimes go into like the real world and we say these things and people are like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like, I have no idea of what you're talking about. And it's funny too, because we hire new people and they like learn our lingo of like things that we say. And then they go home to like their boyfriend or girlfriend and they say those things and don't realize that they're saying it. And they're just like, what are you saying? So it's just funny, like how the culture and growth of the people and everything. That's kind of what I had at the end of this book, like the end of what I found on the internet was just kind of like, it's, it says, I commit to seeing all the people and circumstances as allies and perfectly suited to help me learn the most important things for my growth. Conscious leaders see the benefit of pressure. It either causes them to wake up or take action and allows them new things to come forth. Collaboration opens all kinds of possibilities that are not available from competition or compromise. So it just made me think of like me and Andy doing the podcast and kind of like talking to you guys and doing book club and all that stuff. It's like, I've noticed over this like year of us doing this, like all these things that I've like learned and gathered and felt better about myself and my company and how I grew it, because so many of us have the same story. Like Scott talking about fucking printing on a cabinet door. Like, how many of us have done like stuff like that and like succeeded, and now we're where we're at because we did stuff like that. So that's kind of my end to the book, I guess. It's just like, I'm glad I'm kind of growing as a person and becoming a more conscious leader, but I'm glad we all kind of share in the same thing.
I think being just an extension of all of that is being a conscious contributor. Because I don't know about you guys, but this past year and a half has probably been the most that I've ever spoken to other human beings about screen printing.
Right.
And certainly the most I've connected with like a greater community.
Do you think that's a result of the pandemic, or do you think it's a result of just a change in how you looked at things? I mean, why do you think that is?
I think it's a little bit of both. Kind of what Amy was saying, it's like once the initial like disaster of everything surrounding the pandemic, just internally thinking about it, because I mean, a year ago in March, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like spraying down boxes at the shop with like bleach water. And I think if I touch anything, I'm going to die immediate, like the next day, that's it, I'm dead. If I touch this cardboard box, I'm dead. Like, once that, like, I think one of the benefits of COVID has been it made the entire world slow down, even just for a minute. And it really, I think, made everybody realize like we're all somewhat operating on a level of just being these robots that wake up at X time when the alarm goes off, and we do this not just morning routine, but a whole life routine where everything is just in order and whatever. I think it made everybody slow down and a lot of introspective mentality came from that. For me, especially, to realize like, why did I even start doing this? Why did I want to print shirts? Why did I want to do anything that I do in my life? And start thinking about, that's the big question. Like, why do I do this? What's the why? Why do we come in here and stress out and accept that it's perfectly acceptable to be screamed at by a customer that's angry that the yellow is not the yellow that they envisioned in their brain?
You just gave me PTSD so hard. We had a customer today complain about the yellow on their print not being right. And as soon as you said that, I was like,
they were so mad that they texted all of us.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was funny because it was a younger, like a 20-something kid who has a race car, and he had an issue that the yellow didn't match the yellow on his race car he never told us about. And his mom called and complained.
Oh.
So I got to talk to her mom today. That was pretty awesome.
I think you got a date later or what?
I got to make it right somehow.
Well, cupcaking.
Where did Andy go? He always has diarrhea.
I went to grab our next book, so I thought I would.
Hey, let me get in here. So how does this work? So we meet up read a book, meet up every week, discuss it.
Once a month.
Once a month. Okay, gotcha. Is there a list of book or a list that you guys going?
We're going to see the next one right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Here's the big reveal.
Yes.
I just bought a new book for you. This is perfect.
You got to tell everybody about the story about that book though.
Yeah, Dylan bought it for me.
Right, but you got the book and thought somebody from the shirt show sent it to you.
Oh yeah, I thought like I had a fan. I was like, oh, cool, because it didn't say anything on it. It didn't say from Dylan or anything. I'm like, oh, cool. I think I have a fan.
You thought he had a secret.
And Dylan ruined it. Yeah.
No, I was like, oh, it's just me, man. Like I was making sure you made better chili.
No, just kidding. That's not the book. It is actually. We thought it'd be a good idea to do the other book Amy suggested. I mean, it was so close. Like Conscious Leadership won
she's like, oh God, no.
No, it only won by like 3 votes or something crazy like that. And so the other book is called Ride of a Lifetime by Robert Iger. And it's that story of like I guess it's a autobiography, right? Of how his, he ran.
I read that a couple weeks ago and it is super good. Unexpectedly good.
All right, cool. So we have a 5-star review from Corey. So it comes up. And he's ahead. Now he doesn't have to read the book, or maybe he'd read it again. I don't know. But
you could read the chili cookbook.
Yeah.
We need a backup. We need a backup book for those that don't want to read.
Right.
It's good though. It was like unexpected. Like Disney's a huge company, but I maybe thought of it only as mainly theme parks or something, and like has a lot of really good negotiation stuff and a lot of good like collaboration stuff. Cause his big thing is he like got Star Wars and got like all these big brands into Disney, which is not easy to do. The Star Wars example I remember was like when that,
don't ruin it.
It's not a sport. George Lucas would say this.
You're supposed to say this is how he got Star Wars, and then you dropped out of this meeting.
Oh no, it's nothing about that. So George Lucas said like on my tombstone when I die, it's going to say George Lucas, creator of Star Wars. And so think about like how different a negotiation would have been. Like they got it, so I won't say how, no spoilers, but that's like the rethinking is that like you're not just like getting some intellectual property. It's like sometimes it's a person's whole identity, their whole identity. And negotiation that's what that negotiation book taught me from the other month, was just that like people have different perspectives, right? How do you negotiate with someone who's not worried about the money? They're just worried about their legacy because that's what's going to be on their tombstone.
Right? And
Yeah, I know what's going to be on my tombstone. I think I wrote it or spoke it pretty recently.
Well, I can't remember what it was. It was.
It's like you can and you will and you will.
You can and you will and you will and you. No.
Yeah. Don't. It's pretty legendary. Yeah.
You do and you will and you will and you do.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
That tombstone thing though was real. I think that there was a part in the book actually that talked about pre-mortem. Is that the right word? And talking about. Think of yourself or your company as if it weren't there, and what would people say or what people think. The Nobel Prize was started because of that. Like this guy, he saw they mistakenly printed an obituary in the paper and used his name, and so everybody thought that he died when he didn't, and they were hating on him because he had invented dynamite, this Nobel. And so he was like, you know what, this is terrible. I don't like what everybody's saying, and I'm gonna do something about it. And so he created the Nobel Peace Prize, and there you go. It changed everything. And so now people think he's pretty cool. And so I think it's important, to maybe think about it on those terms too. Like you said, your tombstone, or like I guess Corey said that about George Lucas or whatever. And so yeah. I don't know. I don't think I want it to be you can and you will and you do and you or whatever. Maybe so.
Even if it's not you die first, I'm going to carve it in there for you. Fucking pocket knife.
Done, Andy.
I'm going to be there with like a flower, and I'm going to be peeling off petals, putting it on your grave, and I'm going to say, and you can and you will, and I'm just going to say it, and then I'm going to walk away.
Will and you do.
Yeah.
You're going to get it wrong.
With every petal, it's you can. You will, you can, you will, you do.
You're dead. And then I walk away.
There's Ryan sent me, I guess, a spinoff of this book. It was the 15. What was that called, Dylan? Did you remember that?
I don't remember what I did 5 minutes ago.
I will try, and I don't see it right here.
Well, he sent me the email and there was like nothing in it.
Or did he text it to you? No, I think it was a text.
No, he sent us an email.
Well, I'll try and find it. And I don't know if I have all of your emails. I don't think I do, but you can email me if you want it. Email me, andy@shirkong.com, and I'll reply with that, what Ryan sent me.
Or we could just send it to the book club mailing list.
Yeah, there you go.
If you ever need some help, I got to duck out of here, but if you ever need some help, like pirating some books, you can just let me know as well.
We actually buy 2 copies every time.
I actually bought to the Green Lights one, I bought the audio and
I bought both. I buy the audio and the physical so I can have it on my shelf so I look smart when people come in.
That's lit. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, look at all these books I've kind of read.
I kind of found when I had a hard time concentrating on some of these books because I tend to zone out. I don't know if that's like a ADD thing or something, but I'm like, if I listen to it and like read it together, that kind of helped me sometimes. But
at the same time, you mean like you read along?
Like when I was on the plane reading this one, I was like, I just kept wanting to tune out, but like I followed it with my eyes too and like listened to it while I read it. It was kind of weird, but I was like, I feel like I'm retaining this a little better.
Yeah. Reading attention. If there's anything I've learned about reading attention is that it's a muscle that you can build. It's different than like a skill. It's like an actual muscle, a practice that you got to get dialed at.
Hold on. Is Mark working right now?
Is he printing back there?
Are you folding shirts?
He's muted.
Multitasking.
He's got shit to do.
I do too. So good to chat to you guys, everyone.
Hey,
I gotta
man.
Go pick up some steak.
I think we're all good. It was good to see all of you. I love and appreciate all of you for being here. Let's do it again next month.
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
Thanks for doing it.
Peace.